Hi, this is Learning While Listening, and I'm Brad Humphrey. In today's topic, I want to talk about who's educating your leaders. Hopefully you have a great group of leaders in your organization, whether they are department managers, sales managers, superintendents, even crew foremen. Leadership is critical at every level within any company. But who's educating this group of leaders? The easy answer, of course, is either the owner or a senior leader themselves. Yet when it comes right down to actual development, there are a few companies that have an organized education program for this very critical level of the company. Yes, such leaders may attend a conference periodically, and there's a few business owners and senior leaders who take an active role in the development of their own leaders. But in short, there is a lack of leading our leaders. Educating your leaders may be the most significant opportunity you have to bolster the internal operations of your business that directly improves your productivity. The investment will pay huge dividends as leaders begin to make better decisions, follow more closely the values and the strategic direction set by senior leaders, and cast a better leadership to their own reporting employees. Let's take a look at a few efforts you can make to strengthen your leaders' performance. First, spend time with your leaders. This is a toughie to maintain for busy and growing companies. As a senior leader in your company, it is often easy to fall into the trap of having to be everywhere else but with your own leaders. I've heard owners sometimes say, they've got things under control, they can handle the things. I fear this is said more in hope than in confirmation of what is actually happening. Now, while we want our leaders to perform important and needed responsibilities, it remains important for owners and the senior leaders to spend time with their other leaders. Such time may be spent discussing specific challenges, discussing upcoming jobs, or just talking about each other's families. This time spent slowly begins to shape the leader's values, expectations, and focus along the line of what the owner desires. In short, it builds strong relationships that are anchored in trust, understanding, and appreciation for skills and talents. I have found successful construction owners and senior leaders who meet with their leaders individually, sometimes as much as 2 to 3 times a month. And that's outside the normal interaction, maybe perhaps due to just work loads or projects. Certainly, the president and or the owner of a construction company with 20 employees may, on the surface, have more time to spend with their leaders than, say, the owner or president of a company with 500 workers. But in reality, it seems that most owners and their senior leaders are all very busy, so time spent with their leaders becomes even more critical. Let's look at the second item. Build 15 minutes of education into your staff meetings. I probably sit and observe some 20 or more staff meetings a year. That's easy. While a healthy percentage of these meetings address needed issues, there is still a period of time that is just wasted. Hey, simply installing an agenda and sticking to it can remedy this problem in many cases. But another opportunity that most contractors miss with their own staff meetings is the educational component. For many organizations, a staff meeting is likely one of the few times that all of the leaders are present in one setting. So as part of your meeting agenda, carve out just 15 minutes and dedicate this to a learning moment. I'll share a few ideas about what you can use during this time in the next point, but let me provide a few quickies right now. The 15 minutes of education could include sharing a specific technical question that has been challenging workers, or a customer complaint that is still plaguing our client relations effort. Maybe we could talk about best practices learned from a recently finished job, or what safety improvements need to be made and why, or how to coach some of those problem employees that we have, and even how to motivate our workforce. Now, the potential educational opportunities are endless. Taking any difficulty or lessons learned is always good since it's directly related to the company and its growth. The key here is to always slant the discussion with the following questions. 1, what did we learn from this experience? 2, How do we adjust our efforts to make it right or better? And 3, how do we communicate this change to the workers impacted? Now, another good educational tool is to use for these 15 minutes of education is to role play certain scenarios that leaders may be facing. For instance, you might engage your leaders into a little small role-playing activity where there may be a coaching situation, actually on a job or in a department, with especially a challenged worker. Another example for a good role play would be an interaction between a leader and an irate customer. This 15 minutes of education can become a terrific development boost to your leaders. The safety of learning among like-focused leaders can reinforce your leadership team that you are all about their best, leading their best. Now let's look at the third point. Engage some non-traditional educational methods. Taking your leaders away from your company for hours to days at a time is costly. Not just in actual travel and class, cost, but also with the lack of them not being present for their jobs or being available quickly to their people. We've got to find some other methods then to educate our leaders. Consider a few of the following educational efforts that are much less costly and can be more productive. I've, in fact, helped initiate and maintain some of this for companies around the United States. I'll give you a couple of suggestions. A monthly book chapter review and discussion. Hey, this involves selecting an easy-to-read book, say on leadership, and having all of the leaders read just one chapter a month. At each month's end, you could then engage the leaders to discuss what the chapter meant to them and how they can incorporate the principles or techniques presented into their own leadership effort. I've personally seen this effort work nicely with leaders and have led such efforts for several organizations. In fact, I've written several reviews for some of these chapters so that it makes it easier in transition for their leaders. The owner could make this part of the 15 minutes of education at one staff meeting a month. Another idea, video your competitors at work and then debrief. I actually watched this effort done many years ago by a contractor who was very successful. She would literally video some of their direct competitors performing work in the same industry that she was in, and then replay the tape at a staff meeting. Now, this was just pure genius from my perspective. Not many leaders, including their workers, may feel comfortable critiquing their own performance, but boy, show the competitor, and you will bring the house down with the experts' opinions. Now, this effort is quite educational and can also reinforce what your firm is doing or not as well compared to the competition. Another idea, engage your leaders to develop a leadership code of conduct. This is quite educational as your leaders actually develop the standards and actions that they believe is best representative of the culture of your organization. Once this is developed, take one of the items and build some training around it at a staff meeting. Consider a few examples of a code of conduct standards. Treat all workers with respect. Follow up with requests made by others. Confront wrong performance professionally. Ensure that every job is pre-planned and prepared. Represent the company well, even in personal life. Now, the standards developed will be subject to your company and to its leaders, but the key here is to engage your leaders in this educational effort and then leading them on how to live and lead the same amongst their people. Let's look at a fourth idea. Commit to execute the 1-minute coaching effort. A minor adapting of a principle presented in the book many years ago entitled The 1-Minute Manager, you need to commit to taking advantage of those coaching moments when they come around. Nothing has the full impact on any leader's development than when their senior leader takes the time to provide a coaching moment. Opportunities appear daily to coach, so be prepared. A fifth idea, use what I have created called the High-Low Leadership Report. Now, this tool is one that I've actually used with my own staff through the years and very successfully, but also have introduced it to many construction leaders across our country. In fact, many non-construction companies that I've worked with through the years are using it today. Simply put, your leaders send you a brief in the equivalent of 1 page or less in content, a brief review of the past week by including 3 to 5 highlights and 3 to 5 lowlights. hence high-low. These are to be short and in bullet point formatting. The leader is not to write a long explanation to defend or brag about any high or low item, and keeping the high-low brief doesn't require much time from the leader completing it, and even less time for you to read and to keep updated on some of the week's happenings. Now, if you want more information, you can always follow up with the leader who provided that to you. It will take a few weeks to get some of the bugs worked out, but once you do, you're going to love it. You'll love it. This will also become another way for you to lead your leaders in learning. Most construction owners and leaders recognize the need to keep their leadership team primed and poised, yet the reality is that many owners and senior leaders pay little attention to actually developing their leaders. They just assume that they are going to gradually mature. Well, in the short run, this may not have a big negative impact on the business, but in the long run, the same owners may run the risk of having poorly developed leaders who are incapable of achieving more profitable results. Hey, recommit to educating your leaders. For a small personal investment of time, you will be strengthening your entire organization. Another side benefit to this effort that I've observed is that most owners and their senior leaders also improve their own knowledge and leadership along the way. Thus, by allowing the recommendations presented in what I've shared with you today, you're going to be creating more win-win scenarios for you and your people. Hey, educate, and I really mean lead, your leaders. Again, this is Brad Humphrey. I hope you've enjoyed this Learning While Listening podcast.